Good evening, I'm Jonathan Wills. These are the headlines in London tonight. For the third time in 6 days, the Underground has inflicted chaos on passengers. Following the two derailments at the weekend, tube users were stuck in a tunnel on the Victoria line for more than an hour during this morning's rush hour. This afternoon, one of the firms responsible for tube maintenance was grilled by MPs. Our political correspondent Simon Harris has this report.
Once again, the tube comes to a standstill. Once again, a finger of suspicion is pointed at partial privatisation. Thousands of commuters were affected when a Victoria Line train broke down in a tunnel near Oxford Circus at the height of the morning rush hour. Passengers trapped on board had to wait until two empty trains were brought up behind. Only then could they get safely through the carriages to the platform without walking on the track. It was a drama which lasted 90 minutes. Among the thousands late for work, London's Mayor Ken Livingstone, a fierce critic of partial privatisation, or PPP.
This latest incident indicates once again the fragility of the system. All three of the PPP consortia have now had major problems in the space of just half a week.
The worst was Camden Town, a derailment on the Northern Line on Sunday. Maintenance on this part of the network is done by Tube Lines, a consortium which includes the controversial rail contractor Jarvis among its shareholders. Jarvis has recently abandoned its contracts on mainline railways. Today, a senior manager was being put on the spot by MPs.
Why should Londoners have any confidence in a consortium that involves Jarvis when you've already admitted that you're not interested in maintenance of track on heavy rail?
There's no reason why they shouldn't have confidence, because, as I say, our track record examined objectively is comparable with our peers.
Tomorrow, some of the key players in what has been a shameful week on the Underground will be called to account before an emergency sitting of the London Assembly. At City Hall, this is Simon Harris for London Tonight.
Police are investigating the death of a man in Hounslow. The man, who's thought to be between 30 and 40 years old, was spotted by a group of walkers in Beaversfield Park. He'd suffered wounds to the stomach. Police have now closed the park for further investigation. They say they're treating the death as suspicious. Meanwhile, the Met has unveiled a major change in the way it handles information relating to people involved in disasters. Its Central Casualty Bureau now has an improved computer system. The Twin Towers disaster highlighted problems with the old operation when Scotland Yard struggled to cope with 1,100 calls an hour. The new bureau can handle 80% more inquiries than before.
And links are important. If we have someone that's saying they've lost a friend or a relative, or they think they might have been involved, and we've got information about someone that's been found in a hospital somewhere, then it's easy using Homes2 and the Casualty Bureau facility to tie those up and get back to the person that's made the inquiry and tell them that their relative is safe and sound and at this location.
The sting in the tail of London's record-breaking summer has now been revealed. Thames Water is having to tap into emergency reservoirs to combat a shortage of supply following months of dry weather. It's had to act because the wet autumn vital for replenishing stock has so far failed to materialise. This report from reporter Damien Green.
Difficult to believe on a day like today that London is in the grip of a water shortage. This water fell as rain 6 years ago somewhere on the Chiltern Hills, and today it's being pumped from emergency reserves 200 feet below North London. 140,000 tonnes of it each day, which we now rely on to stop the capital from running dry. Londoners are being advised not to waste it.
They were very good during the summer. They used water wisely. They cut down on the use of hose pipes and that sort of thing. And we're asking them to carry on doing that. We don't expect them to be using hose pipes to water gardens now, but if you've got to wash your car, please use a bucket.
London's water authorities can cope with a dry summer, but only because they can normally rely on a wet autumn to restore the balance. But while the soaring temperatures may now be just a distant memory, the change in season hasn't brought enough rainfall to replenish the supply. At this reservoir in North London, the water has visibly sunk. Where once it would be 70 feet deep, now the level has dropped by 25%, so that even as November approaches, we're still paying for the pleasures of a hot, dry summer.
September and August, they were the driest since records began in 1940, so we are talking exceptionally dry. And so far this month, in October, we've only had about 14% of the normal rain we get, and it's already, what, the 22nd, so it has been exceptionally dry.
Thames Water say that just an average winter's rainfall will repair the damage caused by a dry summer, but if London's population continues to expand and demand for water continues to grow, they're going to have to find other ways to make sure that when you turn the tap on, something comes out. In North London, this is Damon Green for London Tonight.
Police outnumbered protesters who showed support this afternoon for two demonstrators spending a second day above the main entrance to the Royal Courts of Justice in central London. They're from Fathers for Justice, which campaigns for children to see both parents and grandparents when couples separate. The court's business hasn't been affected, but this evening police officers are still trying to coax down the two men who've shed the Batman and Robin costumes they've been wearing.
Well, the reality is, at the moment, although the law itself is gender neutral, in reality the practice of family law that's emerged in the United Kingdom over the past 15 years has resulted in institutionalised discrimination against fathers in the family courts.
Well, that's all from us for the moment. We're back with bulletins during GMTV from 6:30 tomorrow morning. Now back to the ITV News and Katie Derham.